What's up everybody, blessed be, my name is Mannun and you are watching Witch in the Working, where we will be discussing all things witchy in and around, throughout and about, above, below, and beyond. Please visit all my other platforms as well, Facebook and all that good stuff, and my Patreon account if you want to get a script of the videos that I can make scripts for. You can get that and make your own BOS and all that good jazz. And I also have a little store, all linked down in the description below if you want to buy some memorabilia and things like that. So the enigmatic Ouija board has long been a tool of both fascination and fear, evoking images of spirit communication and otherworldly encounters. For those who practice Wicca and witchcraft, the Ouija board can hold a particular allure, providing a means of seeking guidance or connecting with the spiritual realm in general. The intricacies of this enigmatic board, with its origins steeped in the spiritualist movement of the late 1800s, has both captivated and confounded people for generations. Its ability to seemingly open doors to the unknown, coupled with its inherent danger, make it a fascinating and controversial topic in the world of the metaphysical practices. Despite its mixed reputation, the Ouija board, got one right here as an example. This is the planchette. The Ouija board remains an enduring symbol of the potential for communication with the beyond, a tool that has the power to both inspire and frighten those who dare to explore its mysteries. In this episode of Witch in the Working, we're going to be talking all about the Ouija board and the ins and outs of its shadowy reputation. So, without further ado, roll the intro. Welcome back everyone. The Ouija board, also known as a spirit board or a talking board to some, is a flat board marked with letters of the alphabet, numbers, and various symbols, as you can see here. A small heart-shaped or a triangular piece called a planchette is placed on the board as well, and participants place their fingers lightly on it, allowing it to move seemingly on its own. The idea behind the Ouija board is that it can be used as a tool to communicate with spirits and entities from beyond the physical world. The participants ask questions and the planchette moves to spell out answers by pointing to letters or symbols on the board. The belief is that the movement of the planchette is guided by a spirit or an entity communicating through it. Many people who use the Ouija board believe that they are communicating with deceased loved ones or with other spirits such as angels or demons, whatever your fancy is. It is important to note, however, that just like everything else in this magical world, that there is no scientific evidence to support the belief that the Ouija board is a legitimate tool for spirit communication, and many skeptics attribute the movement of the planchette to the ideometer effect, a psychological phenomenon where unconscious movements are influenced by suggestions or expectations. Despite the lack of scientific evidence, the Ouija board remains a popular tool for those who believe in the paranormal and spiritual communication aspects of it. Some view it as a harmless form of entertainment or a way to seek guidance, while others see it as a potentially dangerous portal to the unknown. The origin of the Ouija board can be traced back to the spiritualist movement of the late 1800s, as I said earlier. This movement was centered around the belief that it was possible to communicate with the spirits of the dead, and it was particularly popular in the United States and over in Europe. One of the earliest known talking boards was the planchette board, patented in France in 1853. This board used a small wooden heart-shaped piece called a planchette, which was guided by the hands of the participants to spell out messages. The modern Ouija board as we know it today was first patented in 1890 by a man named Elijah Bond. It was marketed as a parlor game and quickly gained popularity, particularly among spiritualists and those interested in the occult. The name Ouija is said to have come from the combination of the French and German words for yes, oui and ja, and it was originally pronounced Ouija. The rights to the board were later sold to a game company called Parker Brothers, which still holds the trademark for the Ouija board today, which is why when you go buy a Ouija board in the store nowadays, you're probably going to see one from Parker Brothers. Throughout the years, the Ouija board has remained a controversial and often misunderstood tool. There are divergent opinions on whether it is a harmless source of amusement or a perilous gateway to the world of the spirits. The Ouija board has been the subject of numerous investigations, both scientific and paranormal, but its true origins and effectiveness remain a mystery to this day. The spiritualist movement of the late 1800s was a cultural phenomenon that emerged in the United States and Europe. The belief that it was feasible to communicate with departed spirits was at the heart of the movement, which gained extensive appeal among individuals who had experienced the loss of their loved ones and were looking for a means to establish a connection with them. During this time, a variety of tools and methods were developed to facilitate communication with the spirit world, including mediums, seances, and talking boards. The Ouija board was one such tool, and it quickly gained popularity among spiritualists and those interested in the occult. Gotta concentrate on slowing down these things. I've been getting a lot of comments that I do these lessons way too fast. I'm consciously trying to slow down, but my nature is to just boom. So, okay. All right. So, the Ouija board was marketed as a parlor game, and it was often used as a form of entertainment at gatherings and parties. However, many people who used the board believed that it was a legitimate tool for communicating with spirits, and they used it to seek guidance and answers to life's mysteries. The popularity of the Ouija board continued to grow throughout the early 1900s, and it was even used by some during World War I as a way to communicate with soldiers who had died in battle. In the 1960s and 70s, the board experienced a resurgence in popularity as interest in the paranormal and occult increased. And despite its mixed reputation, the Ouija board remains an enduring symbol of the spiritualist movement and the human desire to connect with the unknown. Over the years, many different patents and companies have produced Ouija boards. Some examples are as follows. Elijah Bond was the first to patent the modern Ouija board in 1890. His board was sold through a company called the Kennard Novelty Company. In 1892, William Fuld began working for the Kennard Novelty Company and eventually took over production of the Ouija board. He patented his own design in 1901 and founded the Ouija Novelty Company. After Fuld's death in 1927, his estate took over the production of the Ouija board. The estate was later sold to Parker Brothers, a game company that still holds the trademark for the board today. And again, as I mentioned earlier, if you go to Target or Walmart or wherever to buy yourself a Ouija board, it's most likely going to be Parker Brothers. There's lots of other stores that sell them, especially occult stores. You'll see some unique ones. And if you go online to Amazon, you'll see a lot of unique ones that have been made. And, you know, there's nothing stopping you from making your own as well. It's not like there's a machine at the Parker Brothers or wherever facility that's infusing these things with spirits, you know, so you know, you can always make your own as well. In addition to Parker Brothers, other game companies have produced Ouija boards over the years, including Milton Bradley, Hasbro, and Winning Moves Games. There have also been many independent makers of Ouija boards, including artists and craftsmen who create unique and personalized boards for individuals or small businesses. In recent years, there's been a rise in digital versions of the Ouija board with apps and websites that simulate the experience of using the board on a computer or a smartphone. I personally have no experience with that. I've never gotten one before, so I can't talk much about them. It's not like I can point you to a good one or anything because I've just never used it. But anyway, despite the many different patents and companies that have produced Ouija boards over the years, the basic design and function of the board has remained largely unchanged. The enduring popularity of the board is a testament to its power to captivate and mystify people, even in the modern age of technology and science. The concept of the ideomotor response is a psychological phenomenon where unconscious movements are influenced by suggestions or expectations. In the context of the Ouija board, the ideomotor response theory suggests that the movement of the planchette is not caused by spirits or entities from beyond, but rather by the subtle movements of the participants themselves. According to the ideomotor response theory, ideomotor, it's such a weird word. When people place their fingers on the planchette and ask a question, their unconscious minds may be influencing the movement on the board. This can be without the participants even being aware of it, and may be influenced by their expectations, beliefs, and even subtle muscle movements. For example, if a participant expects the answer to a question to be yes, they may unknowingly move the planchette in that direction. Similarly, if a participant is nervous or anxious, they may make slight unconscious movements that affect the direction of the planchette. While the ideomotor response theory is a controversial topic, it's widely accepted among skeptics and scientists as possible explanation for the movement of the planchette on the Ouija board. Many studies have shown that participants who are blindfolded or who don't know the answer to a question being asked on the board are less likely to respond accurate responses, suggesting that this suggests that the movement of the planchette is influenced by the participants themselves rather than by the spirits or entities. However, it is important to note that belief in the paranormal and spiritual communication is deeply personal and subjective, and many people who use the Ouija board continue to believe that they're communicating with spirits or entities beyond and far above the physical world. The true nature of the Ouija board and its ability to connect with the unknown remains a mystery, and the debate over its effectiveness continues to be a topic of much discussion and speculation. If you decide to use a Ouija board, it's important to understand the proper etiquette and guideline for using it safely and respectfully. Here are some steps for you to use a Ouija board if you go and obtain one. Gather a group of willing participants. It's best to use the Ouija board with at least 2 people, as this can help to prevent the influence of the ideomotor effect. Choose people who are open-minded, respectful, and willing to follow the guidelines. Choose a quiet, calm location. Avoid using the Ouija board in a noisy or distracting environment, as this can make it more difficult to focus and can ultimately increase the risk of unwanted disturbances or distractions. Place the board on a flat, stable surface. Make sure that the board is placed on a sturdy surface that won't move or wobble during use. It's also a good idea to place a light source nearby, such as a candle or a lamp, to create a calming atmosphere. Also, I recommend that if you do get a Ouija board, don't get one that like folds. Anytime I've gotten anything that and worked with anything that folds, so the planchette, when it's moving across the board, it hits that fold and then it locks up, and that's just bogus. That's just very, very poor design. Don't get anything that folds out and about. It's important not to push or force the planchette, but allow it to move naturally. Some people prefer to close their eyes to focus their attention during use. Ask questions politely and respectfully. Avoid using the board to ask frivolous or insensitive questions, and always treat any entities or spirits with respect and courtesy. Remember that the board is a tool for communication, not a toy. End the session respectfully. When you're finished using the Ouija board, it's important to say goodbye to any spirits or entities that you may have communicated with. Move the planchette to goodbye. For instance, on this one, it's right here. And thank any spirits for their communication. It's also important to note that using a Ouija board can be emotionally and psychologically intense, and it's important to take care of yourself and your fellow participants. If anyone becomes uncomfortable or frightened during use, it's important to stop the session and take a break. There are several different methods for using the Ouija board, each with its own advantages and risks. Some of the most common methods for using the board are, for instance, using the board alone. Some people prefer to use the Ouija board alone, believing that it allows for a more focused and personal experience. However, using the board alone can also be risky, as there's no one to monitor or guide the session, and it can be difficult to tell if the movements of the planchette are influenced by the ideomotor effect or by external forces. Using the board with a partner. Many people choose to use the Ouija board with a partner, as this can help to reduce the influence of the ideomotor effect and provide a more balanced and objective experience. It's important to choose a partner who's respectful and open-minded, and to follow the proper guidelines for using the board. Using the board in a group. Some people choose to use the Ouija board in a group, believing that this can provide a more powerful and focused experience. However, using the board in a group can also increase the risk of external influences and distractions, and it's important to choose a group that is respectful and focused. Using the board with a psychic or a medium. Some people choose to use the Ouija board with a psychic or a medium, as they believe that these individuals can help to facilitate communication with the spirit world. However, it's important to choose a reputable and experienced psychic or medium, and to be cautious of anyone who claims to have special powers or abilities. Using the board during a ritual or ceremony. In some spiritual traditions, the Ouija board is used as a part of a larger ritual or ceremony. This can provide a more focused and intentional experience, but it's important to follow the proper guidelines and respect the traditions of the particular ritual or ceremony. Regardless of the method chosen, it's important to use the Ouija board safely and respectfully, and to be aware of the risks and potential dangers involved. By following proper guidelines and exercising caution, the Ouija board can be a powerful tool for those who believe in its ability to connect with the spiritual realm. The Ouija board is often associated associated with a range of beliefs and fears, some of which are based in religious and cultural traditions. One of the most common fears associated with the Ouija board is that it can summon evil spirits or demons that can cause harm or danger to the participants. This belief is often rooted in religious traditions that view spiritual communication as a dangerous and forbidden practice. Opening a portal to the unknown is another anomaly some people believe. They believe the Ouija board has the power to open a portal to the unknown, allowing spirits and entities from other dimensions or planes of existence to enter into this physical world. This can be a frightening prospect for those who believe in the potential dangers of such entities. Becoming possessed or controlled is yet another common fear associated with the Ouija board. Some believe that it can lead to possession or control by outside forces. Some even believe that the board can influence the thoughts and behaviors of the participants, leading them down a dangerous or destructive path moving forward. Some people come to believe that the Ouija board can attract negative or harmful energy, leading to bad luck, illness, or other negative consequences. This belief is often rooted in superstitions or cultural traditions that view certain objects or practices as having a negative or harmful energy. Of course, if you're skeptical of the Ouija board, then you will most likely point to the ideomotor effect as a possible explanation for the movement of the planchette, and ultimately view the board as a harmless form of entertainment rather than a dangerous tool for spiritual communication anyhow. While the beliefs and fears associated with the Ouija board can vary widely amongst different cultures, it's important to approach the board with a caution and respect and to follow proper guidelines for safe and responsible use. Whether one believes in the board's potentials for danger or views it as a harmless form of entertainment and again some kind of parlor game, it's important to approach the board with an open mind and a healthy dose of skepticism. The use of the Ouija board has been associated with a variety of alleged hauntings, possessions, and other paranormal phenomena throughout history as well. While many of these incidents are difficult to verify or confirm, they've contributed to the Ouija board's reputation as a powerful and mysterious tool. Some examples of real-world incidents and alleged hauntings associated with the board are, for instance, The Exorcist. The 1973 horror film The Exorcist features a scene in which a young girl named Reagan uses a Ouija board to communicate with a spirit named Captain Howdy. This scene has become iconic in the horror genre and has contributed to the Ouija board's association with possession and demonic activity. I guess at some point some believe that actually The Exorcist, the movie that came out, was actually a real story. Like it really happened. So that's where that's coming from when it says like real life experiences. Is it a real life thing that happened? I don't know. Maybe put down in the comments below if anybody knows. Like, did that really happen? I know they made a movie and it was supposedly based on a true story, but it would be interesting to find out. I'll look it up myself too later, but it'd be cool to know. Put it down in the comments below. The Zozo phenomena. The term Zozo has become associated with a particular entity or spirit that is believed to be summoned through the use of the Ouija board. Some people believe that Zozo is a malevolent entity that can cause harm or danger to those who communicate with it. The Grimsby haunting. In 1977, a family in Grimsby, England claimed that they had been haunted by a poltergeist that they had summoned through the use of a Ouija board. The alleged haunting included mysterious writings on walls, objects moving on their own, and other strange phenomena. In other words, poltergeist phenomena, basically. The Black Monk of Pontefract. In the 1960s and 70s, a family in Pontefract, England claimed that they had been haunted by a black-robed figure that they had summoned through the use of a Ouija board. The alleged haunting included, again, objects moving on their own, strange smells, and other unexplained phenomena. Again, all of those things have strongly to do with poltergeist activity. I actually have a video, I'll link it right here. It's about ghost hunting and everything that I did it a while back. It actually explains a little bit more about what a poltergeist is and different ghosts and things like that, so you can have a little bit more explanation if you want to go to that. While the validity of these incidents and hauntings is a subject of debate, they have contributed to the enduring fascination and mystique of the Ouija board. Whether one believes in the board's ability to communicate with the unknown or views it as a simple parlor game, the Ouija board remains, again, a powerful symbol of the human desire to connect with the mysterious and unknown forces of the universe. To that end, this video provides some guidelines for using the board safely and respectfully, including the importance of choosing a partner who is respectful and open-minded. Following proper guidelines for using the board and using the board in a safe and controlled environment. The Ouija board continues to symbolize humanity's strong inclination towards reaching out to the enigmatic and unfamiliar forces in the cosmos. However, it's important to use the board safely and responsibly, and to be aware of the potential risks and consequences involved. Viewers are encouraged to do their own research and make an informed decision about whether or not they want to use the Ouija board or not. By approaching the board with an open mind and again, a healthy dose of skepticism, it can be a powerful tool for personal reflection and exploration. So, to give you guys a personal story, I have to do this because been there, done that. Involving a Ouija board, and it involved one that me and my old eclectic coven made decades ago. We decided to make our own Ouija board and spent hours wood burning an old round tabletop, and we even decorated it with the elementals of the fairy, the dragons, the undines, and gnomes to represent, the east, south, west, and north. Being witches, we decided that this Ouija board was going to be designed around Wicca or witchcraft and whatnot. So we put the elementals on it because that's like a natural combination of things. We were kids and did the stupid thing of taking it out to an old graveyard when we finished it, and we left it out in the center of the graveyard overnight before we walked away from the board. So we left it like in the middle of the graveyard, and we asked that any spirits or entities that would like to communicate with us in the future to attach themselves to the board and familiarize themselves with it so that we could talk later, like when we go to use the board later. Just before sunrise, we retrieved the board and covered it up in a black velvet type cloth and took it home. We used the board quite successfully for a few months, but then one evening we received a spirit that was he was once, I guess the best way to say this is a very, very bad man. I'm not going to mention his name, but his initials were PI. So nothing really bad ever happened, but the communication with this spirit would monopolize the Ouija session. Once he would show up, in other words, which usually was within the first 5 minutes, he wouldn't let us talk to anyone but himself. No matter how much we tried to get him to get off the board and bring somebody else in, it wouldn't happen. It just went right back to him. And then he'd just go P-I. The planchette would sit there on the board, and it would just sit there, and it would go to like, and it would go, let's see, P-I, P-I. And it would just keep doing this over and over again until we would give him attention. And to be honest, the conversation was always very dark and, basically not interesting nor fun. This guy, the spirit, basically was a very, very bad person. Like, murder and all kinds of horrible things. Like the worst things you could actually think of. It was really weird. It almost made me wonder if it was actually a person at one point or not, or just some kind of discarnate entity that was just talking with us. But regardless, in the end, we would just have to stop using the board and move on with life doing something else, because PI, again, would just monopolize the session. Finally, after we realized he wasn't going to ever leave us alone during these sessions, even if we offered to give him some time but not the whole time, which he insisted on taking up the entirety of the session. So in other words, we would use the board. After 5 minutes, this PI would show up, and the session was completely useless because it was the same stuff over and over again, and it was just, we weren't interested. So it became a useless board. So needless to say, PI was attached to just that board. As any future boards we worked with, he didn't show up at all. So this being said, and I blame this on leaving it in the middle of the cemetery and saying whoever wants to attach to it and that he was able to dominate that board and basically monopolize it. If you do decide to ever obtain or create your own Ouija board, I recommend you do not do a stupid thing like we did and take it to a graveyard and ask any and all entities to attach to the board. But ultimately, what we ended up doing was taking the board and we burned it. And when we had our next campfire, we basically just burned it. I didn't want to keep it anymore. There was nothing else to do with it, and we just burned it. And that was that. End of story. Done. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode of What's in Working. Have you ever used a Ouija board? What happened? Let us all know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to ring that little bell to be reminded of the wonderful and exciting future episodes to come. I love you guys and gals. Blessed be.